Okay. Hey, Sarah.
Hey, Joey.
What's up?
Not much.
It's nice to be here with you.
Yeah.
You're like right in my head.
Yeah.
So, hello, everyone else.
Hello.
Any listeners, whenever you're listening. Um, I just thought that we'd say, like, you can change the direction, but I think maybe at the beginning it's good to see, like, how did this happen,
Yeah.
Why did this happen? What are we doing?
Yeah.
Uh, so a long time ago, there was a Big Bang. No, so Sarah and I have known each other. How did we get to know each other first?
Through Kyle.
Through Kyle, yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know how you met Kyle, but
Some
yeah. Some
humanist
humanist
group
yeah.
on Facebook.
Yeah.
But we've come to find
yeah.
out, like, we were first you took me up on an
Yep.
offer. I think we were commenting on each other's Facebook things. You took me up on an offer for a massage.
Yeah.
We found out we had a thing that's kind of in common. You want to tell the people what we had sort of in
Yeah.
common?
So I'm an ex-Jehovah's Witness, and Joey is ex-Mormon. So we just kind of, in getting to know each other, we're like, wow, we have very similar upbringings, and there's a lot of differences, but those key similarities that kind of drew us into more conversation. And yeah, and then you had this brilliant idea to have a conversation and share it.
Yeah, I found it really actually kind of healing to have conversations with you and to see, like, the little distinctions, the little differences of how the dynamics are, right?
Yeah.
And so I thought it'd be kind of cool to share it. And at first we were thinking we were going to just record it and listen to it ourselves. And then this morning I was with Marco. Hello, Marco. Hey.
Hey, Marco.
There's Marco's hand. And I was giving him a massage, and I was telling him that me and you were going to do this. And he was like, hey, I'm wanting to do a test run.
Cool.
So yeah, anyways.
Awesome.
And as far as time-wise, I don't know how long this will be, but Marco told me he has to go to bed by 2 a.m. So
we'll be done long before that. Don't worry.
Oh, he said we have to fill up at least till 1:30. So,
You're hilarious.
So we got how many more hours? No, but okay. So differences, distinctions, and similarities between our experiences of coming out of a culture, or in some ways that was transformational and difficult to do.
Yeah.
And I remember you said this thing. You said like ex-Mormon and ex-J-Dubs. I just like to think this is always kind of fun for me. The way I play with this is that sometimes I'm like, I'm not ex-Mormon. I'm the most Mormon.
Oh.
And in some way, I feel like I could just have the freedom to speak that, even though, I think it's kind of fun to be like, even perhaps I'm the most, like, Mormons aren't supposed to swear, right? Jehovah's Witnesses?
No, not supposed to, but
so, like,
most
imagine I'm the most fucking Jehovah's Witness. I'm more Jehovah's Witness than you, bastards.
Well, maybe that's one of the differences with them, because I wouldn't want any association with that name. Yeah,
it might be
it's a little different, maybe.
That is, and remember we talked about this big distinction, like the fact that your organization that you came from is very overt. The mechanisms for keeping the organization together.
Yeah, it's basically run by, I think 6 men, and what they say gets written in the Watchtower and Awake, and they follow it. If you don't follow it, then you get kicked out.
Yeah. And what are some of the things that they say in those? Like,
oh man,
I guess
we will go till 1 a.m.
Yeah.
No, there's a lot of things, like, just like not celebrating birthdays or Christmas or any of the holidays, Thanksgiving, Mother's Day, Father's Day, none of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, most religions are no sex before marriage.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It was so extreme. Like, you couldn't even hold hands. Like, you'd get like, some people, like, they would tell on you, like, I saw so and so holding hands, they're dating, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden it's this, like, spiral of gossip, and everybody knows your business. And meanwhile, maybe you were just holding your friend's hand because you have a loving relationship. But yeah, there was no acceptance as far as that went either. If you were if you were with somebody of the opposite sex, then you were dating them. You couldn't be just their friend. That was an impossible thing, you know?
And it's like they're supposed, like, it's, if you're not fully active member, they're supposed to not talk to you,
They
like
shun.
overtly, like they're
Yeah,
supposed to, right? Very
they
overt.
have
It's
to.
not like it's not subtle. It's like in their
Yeah.
face. That's what they're supposed to do.
They're supposed to. And there's concessions given. It's kind of like my parents are allowed to speak to me. I'm not disfellowshipped. I'm not disassociated. So disassociated is where you write a letter to say, I no longer want to be a Jehovah's Witness. So, and that used to be a loophole. And I just found this out. I didn't know. But if you disassociated yourself, then your family was allowed to speak to you. Because you
took the
you
initiative.
left. You just chose to leave.
They didn't kick you out.
Right. Whereas if you're disfellowshipped for a sin committed, then they had to shun you. But now disassociation is being treated the exact same as disfellowshipping. So I'm neither of those things, and my parents still don't speak to me. Like, I've just said I don't believe.
Is that pretty common?
Yeah, that is common. But it's just like I have friends who their parents still speak to them. You know, they've said they don't believe. They've said it's, but they haven't really, like, I've actually came out and said to my parents, I believe you're in a cult. I believe it is a cult. And I think those were, if I hadn't have said that specifically. But yeah, when I first woke up, it was I didn't really know how to, I was like, this isn't real. You have to wake up too. They're controlling your mind. You know, like I got control of my mind, my thoughts, and I wanted them to also, but I was naive to think that would happen. So instead they're just like, okay, you're an apostate and we're not going to have anything to do with you anymore.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's intense. You know, when I left the Mormon Church, I did it in some intense ways too. You know, and sometime after I read this website, it was called whystaymormon.org.
Oh, okay.
And it was written by a guy who was very much a questioning Mormon, at least. And it was just like all these reasons why you might not want to leave, even if you don't really buy it the way they're telling you have to. And I kind of wished I would have read it. It was like telling you ways that you could stay within it and that you might not have to. Hey, you definitely have to throw out some bathwater. You're recognizing you're needing to, but maybe you can keep some of that baby.
Right.
Maybe there's different ways that you don't need to throw much of the, because the culture kind of would want, it seems, the forceful mechanisms like in place within to keep things the way they are would want you to throw away the baby a lot so that you're an example of badness for them, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And it's kind of unfortunate that it feels unfair, I would say, that because you said the word cult, and somebody could have educated you beforehand and been like, whoa, you're in a precarious situation, but pick your words carefully, you know.
Well, even before that, before I said those words, they'd stopped all communication.
Is it so? I would say, like, I kind of have the opinion that it's not uncommon this in Jehovah's Witnesses specifically.
Oh, it's very common. Yeah.
But there are some families who aren't.
There's some families that they're kind of like, oh, well, they're not disfellowshipped, so like they take that loophole. It's like, so I am technically allowed to speak to them, whereas others, they're like, they take it, right to the letter of the law kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like they want to be the better Christian, I guess.
Yeah, that dynamic happens within Mormonism too. I'd say though that I think that in Mormonism it's rarer. Like it's pretty rare that people are that strict that way. It could be it's a bit more of a modern religion, Mormonism, and it tries to it tries to be like have its membership be successful in the world.
Right.
They think that they in some ways the success of Mormonism to Mormonism itself is meant to prove that Mormonism is good.
Right.
The success of its people is meant to convert others. You know?
And they seem like they blend in with society.
A little more.
Whereas Jehovah's Witnesses.
A lot more, I would say.
Right? Like we can't stand for O Canada. So all through school, I had to sit in the hallway.
Yeah.
Not only not sing, I had to sit.
Yeah.
It was so disrespectful.
Yeah.
And just the cringe. And now, anytime the anthem comes on, any anthem, if I know it, I'm singing it.
Nice.
So.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's like me, even like, like if I go to a Christian church, like especially like the rock and roll ones.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, Jesus,
Yeah.
you're the center of my life.
That's awesome.
I'm like I love it, you know.
Yeah.
It's like that's like the best concert. Everybody's into it, you know. It's
Yeah.
sometimes those music things like, yeah, it's really you can sort of play along with it, you know.
Yeah.
Like even like you say, you stand up for a national
Oh
national
yeah.
anthem, you
Of
know.
course. Yeah. I vote. I voted this year for the first
That's
time.
not a thing that you do as a
Can't vote.
Mm.
Like, so because God's government is the only hope for mankind.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah,
know, but
yeah,
we can't vote for someone to help us through this time.
yeah, yeah.
You know, that's not logical.
Yeah, I've talked to them about that. God's government.
Yeah.
Anytime I see missionaries, doesn't matter if usually they're Jehovah's Witnesses or
Yeah.
Mormons.
Yeah.
I'm like, missionaries,
Yeah, you get excited. I cringe. I start shaking.
and they're like, what? And I'm like, how's it going? They're like, good. I'm like, well, can you give me a spiritual thought for the day? And then sometimes they give me something, and you know, usually I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's cool. So sometimes
Cool.
I like what that says about this. To me, I noticed that word. It's like this, and give them a little. And then I'm like, can I share something? And I like read something for my
Nice.
lesson for the day or something like
Right.
that, you know, and texts that I really appreciate. That's always kind of fun.
Nice.
That's cool. So, no, you weren't allowed to stand for the flag, and
Yeah.
voting was it? You weren't
No
allowed to do that
voting.
either. Yeah?
Yeah. I just voted this year for the first time. I've been awake. This year is 5 years, but I was so lost. I had no idea anything about politics. You know, left, right, all that stuff was Greek to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I didn't want to vote. I didn't want to make that decision until I felt educated on that decision.
Mm-hmm.
So this year I was ready.
Hmm.
I felt good. Yeah.
Well, good.
Yeah.
You know, when I left Mormonism, everything was, I didn't know anything. I felt like I did,
Yeah.
even though,
Lost.
like,
You're
I don't think we
lost.
were, like, as a religion, not as sheltered as your religion. Seems like my family experience was very sheltering, specifically mine. And, you know, God bless them and I love them, that's for sure. But I think
Yeah.
there was a lot of shelteredness, specifically within my family situation.
Okay, yeah.
And also within Mormonism, there's shelteredness, but not nearly as
Right.
much as yours. But what I noticed is after I didn't know, I was like, what if I'm, you know, gay? You
Oh.
know, I didn't even know. I was like,
Right.
the reason I was everything is because Mormonism told me to do whatever I was doing, basically, you know, basically in a
Yeah.
big way.
Mhm.
It was like, I didn't know what anything was. And
Mhm.
it was very interesting and kind of weird. And
Yeah.
I remember this will sound weird, but I tried to be gay.
Oh yeah.
You know, like
Okay. I didn't know this about you.
yeah. I went to
Okay. You tried. How did that go?
well, I didn't. It didn't work.
It didn't work.
People may be getting lots of images of that, you know, of something not working.
Didn't work.
But
I get what you're saying.
no,
though.
but I
get what
tried
you're
to be
saying.
attracted to men.
Yeah, yeah.
And I could,
yeah.
like, I went to the mall and I was like, because, you know, I was a pretty young man and,
Yeah.
you know, naturally sort of girl crazy, I guess. And,
Yeah.
but also I was like, what if I'm not gay because I was told not to be gay? So I tried to be attracted. It never worked.
Right.
And also, like, I had some very close gay friends. And
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to try to make it obvious that I'm open to an experience to happen.
Okay.
And I felt this happened twice, that they noticed it, and they made it obvious that they were open. And then as
Okay.
soon as they did, I just noticed, I was like, there's no desire.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So anyways, you have to learn all that stuff, you know?
Yeah.
It's weird
You're
to
literally
develop so late, you know?
Yeah, and you're
Strange.
figuring yourself out. Like you're
Yeah.
getting to know who you are. I
Yeah.
never knew who I was.
Yeah.
Until I left it. And then I
Yeah.
started to be like, you know, no, I don't like that. Like
Mm-hmm.
and I really like this and I was told I couldn't do this.
Mhm.
You know, this
Mhm.
thing is bad, but it's like, no, this thing isn't bad.
Mhm.
It's beautiful and I'm feeling amazing.
Mhm.
And just so many things, so many experiences. And like discovering that worldly people, because anybody who wasn't a Jehovah's Witness is a worldly person, and you know, being taught that they're all bad and they're all going to die at Armageddon. So, you know, leaving the safety of the Kingdom Hall and that organization into the big bad world was kind of terrifying.
Yeah.
But, you know, very quickly I saw that these people are amazing.
Mm.
Like these non-Jehovah's Witnesses
Mm-hmm.
have taken care of me more than Jehovah's Witnesses have.
Mm.
And yeah,
Mm.
I've met some incredible humans
Mm.
since leaving, and all of the ones that don't speak to me anymore, I wouldn't relate to them even if they did speak to me,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm on this journey of growth and they're just kind of stuck
Mm-hmm.
in that. They're stuck. They can't grow. They can't think outside the box. They can't
Mm-hmm.
think for themselves about anything. And here I am, just it's beautiful. The world is beautiful. Life is
Mm.
beautiful.
Mm.
It's not I'm not
Yeah.
stuck anymore,
Mm. You're open to
So
experience.
open.
Mm-hmm. What do you do? What do you think? What if you would have saw like 6 years ago, Sarah? If you were to be able to see her, what if you saw her,
Mm.
someone like her, or specifically her?
Hmm. What do you mean? What would
I
I
don't know.
say?
Like,
What
what
would
if you
I
were like in a situation where you happen to, be for whatever reason like stuck in a, I don't know, there's some disaster and you got stuck in a store
Okay.
together for a
Okay.
long time and you have or a
Oh.
small, so you got a big an elevator
Uh,
and you find out she's a Jehovah's Witness and you know that you used to be one and like,
right.
and you can see that she's
Oh
like
man.
stuck, because 6 years ago she was stuck,
She was
right?
pretty stuck.
And they
Yeah.
all are, the people that you see, they all are stuck as well.
Oh yeah.
But like
They're stuck in that
she was,
narrow-minded
and now she's
thinking.
not. So
Yeah.
them, like interesting,
That's a really good question.
Yeah, yeah.
I would definitely want to warn her and somehow, you know, I think you can't really warn people like that, because as soon as you start saying anything against what they believe in, they shut down.
Yeah.
So I feel like I would just want to ask thought-provoking questions
Yeah.
and kind of get the gears going, especially
Yeah.
knowing how I am.
Yeah.
Like if someone had said, because my sister, she was out and she told me,
Yeah.
about, like that it's not real, and she tried
Huh.
waking me up, and she tried to give me websites to go to. I wouldn't listen
Yeah.
because I was just too focused on, being the good Jehovah's Witness girl. But when I was ready, I feel like it all happened at the right time. So I was finally ready. And so I feel like if I went back and asked myself or saw myself, then I feel like I would just have to gradually just ask questions and get myself thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's basically what happened.
Yeah.
That is basically what happened. How I woke up is just someone asking me questions and me asking questions.
Mm.
Yeah.
Questions are the way to go,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get you thinking.
These back to that, like at the beginning you said that you told them they were a part of a cult,
Mm-hmm.
and not, I don't mean to keep like saying you shouldn't have,
No, no, I don't regret saying it,
Yeah.
because I feel like I was being my authentic self.
Yeah.
I was saying how I felt. I was saying the research that I had done.
Yeah.
This is what I have found, and this is why I think that. But they wouldn't see it.
Yeah.
So
And imagine like if we, when it comes to, thinking of what you would ask 6 years ago, Sarah,
Yeah.
or someone like yourself now,
Yeah.
like if you happen to meet them and they happen to say they were Jehovah's Witness, and you
yeah.
could either play the card of, oh, I was that, or
Mhm.
or not, or you
True,
could, but
true,
and then
yeah.
being able to say like, because oftentimes I find people present that kind of thing and they present it, and it's not a cult. People think it is, but it's not. They sort of like
They get defensive.
they present their defenses with their message right away.
Yeah.
And so, like the question thing, like, oh, interesting. Like, and I think this is an interesting point too, the cult, like, so
Right.
like the person says, they're like, actually, I'm a Jehovah's Witness. It's not what people think it is. It's not a cult as people think, because Mormonism got called a cult a lot when I was young.
Okay.
And it wasn't a cult the way it got called a cult by, I was in the Bible Belt growing up.
Okay.
And by other like Bible believing Christians, they were like, you're in a cult. And they thought that meant, to them, that meant that we were like doing like, Satan,
seances
Satan,
and
or something, you know,
yeah,
and that's not what they're doing, you know.
sacrificing goats.
Yeah, yeah, they're not doing anything like that,
Yeah,
but that doesn't mean they're not a cult.
right.
That's like what? How do you define the word? You know,
Yeah,
like so. What is a
yeah,
person? If a person's like, well, it's not a cult. You say, yeah, interesting. You know that word? It's a powerful word. People use that word to attack people. Oh, you're just in a
yeah.
cult. They also like, what does it mean? You know, what are the
Mm,
dynamics of what that word is? And
okay.
then to point out, it'd be like, hey, but I just want to show you something interesting that the word cult and the word culture are so similar for a
Yeah,
reason, you know, because they have a lot of similarities.
yeah, yeah,
Anyways, I don't know.
yeah.
Like the yeah.
Did you lose your thought? I was going to say something about. I thought you were going to
Go ahead.
continue, so
Go
I was
ahead.
just waiting. Um, but no, like for me, my idea of a cult, and from what I've read, is a high control group. I mean, all religions are cults, really. I feel like in a sense, they could be because they're telling you what to think and what to do and how to live your life. So, but I mean, I don't know. I've heard that, so I don't know. I don't know how I feel about saying that. I'm not saying that all religions are cults. I'm saying they could. Someone could say that. They could make
I'm gonna say it.
that
All
claim.
religions are cult. See,
But
you can.
but
You can
but
say it.
Jehovah's
Go
Witnesses,
ahead. Go ahead.
they I don't know. It's kind of like there's an emotional manipulation
Yeah.
where if you don't believe this, then we're not talking to you.
Yeah.
It's just like this yeah, manipulation, this like it's
You know,
I had another word but I forgot it.
yeah. You know,
Yeah.
I had this idea that a cult is only a cult in comparison to the culture in which
Mm.
it is in, or the
Uh,
bigger cult of
yeah.
like the cult of Canada.
Right.
There's a certain cult of Canada,
Mm.
and like there's certain mechanisms for ostricism, right?
Okay,
If
yeah.
you don't behave certain way, if you say
If you
certain
don't play
things,
hockey.
eh,
Well, maybe not so much. Maybe a little
eh,
bit.
well, there is like like if
Oops.
oop, let that fix 1 second. If you go around and like you know punch people in the face or
Right.
something, all like what cultures are is mechanisms a little bit for social control, and there's just
Yeah.
what seems more
True.
reasonable and what
Yeah.
seems less reasonable.
True. Yeah.
But in some ways you're always going to be a part of somebody's sort of game somehow.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
that's true.
and that's where like it's like I'd rather uh choose to be a part of a game that, well, like I went to Syria. I
Mm.
backpacked through Syria, and the culture there is such that you better not speak badly of the president. That's
Right.
for sure.
Right.
His picture is everywhere. It's really cool. I thought it was really trippy. I was like, holy crap. So,
Wow.
like, I don't know. One time I sat down and I counted like, I was like, I'm just gonna see how many I can count. It was like hundreds of photos of all of
Oh
his.
wow.
But you don't really, you don't like disobey the rules of the game while you're kind of in it,
Right.
in that kind of a game, hardcore.
Right. Yeah.
And someone might be like, hearing this, and they might be like in the throes of Jehovah's Witnesses or Mormonism or some other thing, and it might be smart to think of like, hey, if you were in Syria, even though you might dislike the president, you might not stand up on the statue and yell about it.
Right.
Or if you do, you know what will happen.
Exactly.
Everybody will turn on you in that
Right.
culture. I saw it happen actually.
Yeah.
Somebody stood up on the statue and preached against the president, and all the people were against him and the police. It was
Ooh,
crazy.
yeah.
So same thing with someone kind of consciously coming out of Jehovah's Witness or Mormonism. Like think about it.
Mhm.
Like it's kind of
Yeah.
it's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
It is.
Yeah.
Hmm. One thing I think that's interesting is that that we talked a little bit about the the mechanisms for control within Jehovah's Witness and how like overt it is, and
Yeah.
compared to Mormonism, very covert, very subtle.
Mm.
Like yeah, I feel like maybe we're heading towards an end here. I mean, I could go into something else, but this it's a long conversation about this. But covertly, like it's um,
You were saying earlier that it's more subtle.
It's more subtle. It's more sophisticated.
Yeah, yeah. Whereas
It's
Jehovah's Witnesses, they're just like, no,
yeah,
we don't vote, we don't
yeah,
sing the national anthem.
yeah,
It's very, yeah, open. Like everybody can see it.
yeah.
What the difference is.
Yeah, and where Mormonism, the subtlety of it is like I remember there was a man who left the church leadership growing up, and his son was a good friend of mine. I'd go hang out at their
Mm.
house, and then they asked me regularly, lots of do you believe that? Do you do this? Do you not do that? And one thing is, do you read anti-Mormon literature? Was the question. Nowadays, I'm sure it'd be like
Mm.
material, and that means anything about the church that's not by the church.
Right.
So then, and I would say no, because that was true at the time. I wasn't reading anything that was quote unquote anti-Mormon. I was just reading what they told me to read. So, and then they were like, "Do you associate with someone who does?" And this guy's dad definitely was doing that. And
Okay.
I said, "Well, I go to my friend's house, and I definitely see his dad." And they were like, "Well, you can be nice to him, but just make the conversation short and
Wow.
cordial and be."
Really?
Yeah, and that's that's so
Wow.
subtle,
So
you know.
very subtle,
And
but
then
similar.
yeah, similar. And then I know that
More kind.
yeah,
It's more gentle.
yeah. And
Yeah.
then I know when I leave the church that my
Yeah.
parents are being coached the same way,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
They are. And
Right.
so, well, I know that experientially they don't, like they're very afraid to talk to me
You
or
can
something.
sense the withdrawal.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And like anytime I ever say anything about it, like there was some really, excuse my French, like fucked up dynamics
Mm.
from a child, from what they were telling me was going to happen to me.
Right.
And
Right.
because I was, masturbating, they told me I was going to become
Right.
a rapist and a murderer from the time I was very young.
Oh my gosh.
And it was really like confusing. So, mentioning
Oh,
that
wow.
to people in my family, they've been like, well, nobody's claiming the church is perfect. I'm like, yeah, but if the school,
That's really
yeah, but
wow.
if the school had done this to me, would you not be like, dude, that's fucked up?
Yeah.
Why do you defend the organization right away?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
no, the organization doesn't do all these things that it did to me.
Wow.
So everybody's experience is unique,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like the way. I think Mormonism is more unique actually.
Well, we were told masturbation is bad too. So, but
Yeah,
we weren't told that.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But we were told that it would make Jehovah unhappy
yeah,
and we would possibly die at Armageddon
yeah.
for touching yourself.
Yeah, the Mormons kind of say it that way a little bit too,
I never listened to that one.
I tried, man. Like
No.
I tortured
I'm like, this is
myself
my
over it.
body. This is my body.
I'm telling you, like it was a stupidly like I had a lot of fun as a child in some ways, and I'm very grateful for what the Mormon Church gave me in a lot of ways. Like
Yeah.
it took me camping, it taught me a
Oh,
lot,
cool.
put me in leadership positions, a lot of training.
Nice.
But that whole dynamic, like for you, you were like, I never believed that. Like
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit, because they
Yeah.
said, and no good, you maybe you won't become a rapist and a murderer, but definitely no good girl would ever want to date you. And I was already,
Oh, yeah, that one too. Yeah,
yeah,
you want to get a good, wholesome brother, and
yeah,
if he knows you're doing that, then he'll know
yeah,
you're not spiritual.
yeah, yeah,
That's another thing. The word spiritual,
yeah,
like that was thrown around very loosely
yeah.
growing
It's
up.
always thrown around
But
loosely. It's a weird word.
I never knew what spirituality
What do
actually
you think
was.
it means? What is?
I'm still figuring it out. I'm still kind of lost on where I am with all that. But I feel like it's just this being in touch with yourself and being open-minded and just being accepting of all.
Mm.
And I don't know if I believe in a higher being. I feel like maybe, the God of the Bible, I don't believe in him. I feel like if he's real, then shit, he's an asshole.
Mm.
Because that was some pretty fucked up things that happened. So I don't believe in that kind of a God, but I feel like, I don't know, what if the Bible says we're all made in God's image,
Mm-hmm.
but what if that makes us, I mean, not to say that the Bible is real, but just gets me thinking like maybe we are gods.
Mm.
Maybe we are all gods.
Mm.
we're in control of ourselves and our beings. We have free will, and we have the choice to, you know, on how we want to live. So I don't know. I feel like there is a universal pull. Like I feel like there's, you know, like I'll say, oh, the universe is guiding me, or, you know, like you and I were meant to meet, for example. And yeah, I don't know.
I like that.
I just
the belief that I'm a god. Yeah, that's
I
really
mean,
trying that on. You know, like I make decisions. I'm a
yeah,
god in my life.
I'm in control.
I like that. Try that idea on.
Yeah.
It's a good idea. Think about entertaining that idea. Is a I think it's powerful.
What's your idea of spirituality?
Oh, spirituality.
Yeah.
Well, I think that the word spirit specifically is a really cool and interesting word to look at, because it just, in a big way, it exactly has to do with the word quality. So, meaning, like they say, the spirit of Christmas, the quality of Christmas, the spirit of an old lady, the spirit of a child,
Yeah.
spirit of a tree. You know, these are the quality of a tree. You know, the quality of summer, the spirit of summer.
Right.
You know, these. So in a big way, the word spirit has to do with the word quality, and I think that's an interesting, at least, sort of distinction to point out. And then, but I think the way people kind of use it, it has something to do with the word being. Has something to do with the word consciousness and meaning. So that's the way people use the word frequently. But there's the fact that it has to do with quality, you know, spirit, spiritual. Some people say spirits have to do with dead people and stuff like that.
Right,
you know, but
right.
I don't know. But spiritual is like quality or meaning or something like that, meaning making. Yeah, I'm not sure what to think about it either, but
all I know is it feels good to be able to figure it out for myself.
Yeah.
Like it feels good to, you know, like I can go to a Buddhist temple. I went to the Zen Buddhist temple here in Toronto, and it was the most beautiful meditation I've done yet. And I keep meaning to go back. I'm so busy. Highly recommend it. Yeah. But I could never have done that before. Like in that religion, like you can't really look at other things. So I've since checked out the Quakers. I've been to a Catholic church. The Baptist. We kind of visited them all just to check it out. Just like, I don't really believe this, but
I checked them out too.
Kind of cool. I even went to very like extravagant.
A Gnostic black mass once.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was pretty weird. It was cool. Naked people and
oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's different.
Yeah, it was interesting. Different. Gnostic black mass.
Have you tried the Quaker?
I did.
A Quaker?
It's very cool.
Quiet.
It's very real. Yeah, quiet. Yeah.
I had no idea. My friend Kyle brought me, and I'm like, "Where's the speaker?" And he's like, "There isn't one." He's like, "Shh." I'm like, "What the heck is happening right now?" Then I'm like, "Okay." I'm looking around. I'm like, "Okay, it's a meditation basically." So I'm like, "Okay, I'm in my meditation. Find my Zen." It's like, "How long are we sitting here?" So I think it was like an hour or something. But then it's supposed to be when somebody's moved to speak, then they'll stand up and have their say on whatever.
Yeah.
And you're not to respond or anything. Just listen.
It's cool. I like it.
Yeah. This is a really neat concept.
I went to this mega church with another rock band kind of mega church,
I gotta check one of those out.
They're cool. Yeah. So these people, they're like, are you saved or something, or whatever they asked me, and I was like, what's that?
Are you saved?
They're like, oh, it's when you accept Jesus into your heart or something like that. God. I was like, what's it do? And they're like, well, like it makes if you do this, then you won't go to hell. And I was like, that's like if you die after you die, like if you don't do this, you might go to this terrible place. And they're like, yeah. And so if you accept Jesus, then you don't go there, like no matter what. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, so what do I need to do? And then they're like, well, there'll be an opportunity today at the end. They'll say, anybody who's new here who wants to accept Jesus in your heart, you can stand up. And I was like, so I just stand up? And they're like, yeah. Wow. And I'm like, and then it's done. I'm like, what if I'm not really sure about believing in it exactly.
Right.
And they're like, it doesn't matter. And I was like, well, hell yeah, like, why not,
I accept Jesus
okay.
into my heart.
I'll stand up and I'll be like, hey, yeah. and
Yeah.
everybody clapped for me. It was kind of cool.
Nice.
It was kind of cool. It's just
Cool.
checking my bases, you know. So yeah.
Nice. Very
Anyways,
cool.
I feel like this is. You feel like this is? I feel like it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's been pretty cool talking to you. It's always cool talking to you.
Yeah.
I did have one question for you because
Okay.
I do want to end on like a positive note.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like what advice would you give to other Mormons who are maybe feeling like it's not for them? You know, what advice would you give on their transition to leaving?
Yo, bro, like send me a message first. If you're out there or sister, just send me a message and be like,
And
yo,
talk.
I don't know who to talk to.
Right.
And then like I could talk to you at least a little bit, send you voice notes back and forth.
Cool.
That'd be one thing.
Cool.
Another thing is that you don't have to take it so seriously. You can stay in it. You could have
Yeah.
reasons to stay in it because your
Yeah.
brothers and your sisters are in it.
Yeah.
And you don't have to take it as seriously as they say you have to.
Yeah.
You can go and you can ask shit disturbing questions, not be so disruptive that you're like really, really
Right.
disruptive. But you can be disruptive in a helpful way.
Yeah.
You don't have to take the shit as seriously as they're telling you you have to.
So they'd be more accepting of somebody leaving and saying, "Well, it's not really for me." Like, what is there a shunning practice, or is it
There's
it's just a small withdrawal, like you said with your parents?
there's a type of a shunning.
Yeah.
Like they're you're not allowed to attend a lot of different things that they have, and like they're the temple you can't go to, and
Right. So if your mom's birthday party, let's say, was held in a temple, you couldn't attend.
they wouldn't have their birthday party in a temple.
Okay.
But
Okay.
there's
So-
there's mechanisms for shunning and stuff
So like
that.
family gatherings, though, you'd be allowed to go to.
Basically,
Okay.
as long as I don't ask too many questions, it's
Right.
cordial enough
Okay.
that I have to be a little careful.
Okay.
But
Interesting.
also, as I become more powerful, I know how to ask questions,
Right.
and I know how, when I can hear something, I can hear when I hear them saying stuff. I know how to be like,
Yeah.
actually, just to be clear about it, it's not exactly the way you're saying it, you know,
Right.
because they might be saying something about the way
Ah,
this or that is, and that I
Right.
recognize is actually like they're just kind of following a script that I
Right.
felt followed that same script,
and you
and
call
I
them
can
on
kind
it.
of be like occasionally I'm getting more and more like in command of communication and more bold in a way that I can be like, actually, just to be honest, like it's not exactly the way you're saying it. It's a little more nuanced than that, you know?
Yeah,
And it
yeah.
could be about
Cool.
any topic, you know,
Right.
about people that leave or about whatever. So
And they wouldn't not associate with you afterwards because of
no, because
of your
I think
speaking.
because I've gotten smooth enough about
Cool.
it too, you know.
Nice. Oh, it's so different then because I feel like as soon as I started to say I'm having doubts, even I told my very best friend I'm having doubts, and she took me off Facebook and then sent me a message saying I have to protect my family from your negativity. Like,
You know,
okay.
when I first recognized that I didn't believe it, when I first admitted to myself that I don't really believe this, I've been trying to, but the fact that I've been trying to means I haven't really actually believed in it in a big way. I kind of did, but kind of not, you know.
Yeah.
But when I admitted it to myself, I recognized that I didn't know anybody that wasn't Mormon, basically, and it was kind of a slow, little bit unwind. And I started by asking people that were in the church. I'd be like, "Do you ever have doubts?"
Right. Right.
Because the Mormon church is full of mechanisms for people handling their doubts. Actually,
Right.
you know.
Oh,
And
that's smart.
so they would generally be
Okay.
like, "Well, yeah, I guess, you know, most people do." I'd be
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, I certainly do," and I would just see if it would leave them open to. I felt like,
Yeah.
especially if I was on a date with a girl, it was I had to do that kind of fast,
Right. You
you
have to
know,
kind of find
or
out.
it was rude. It was
where
like
she's at.
irresponsible almost, you know.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No, it sounds a little bit different. 'Cause I feel like, yeah, if I was to say anything against it, then I would be automatically marked as someone to avoid because I'm planting seeds or whatever.
Of doubt,
they
yeah.
would of doubt and
Do they
stuff,
have
so.
mechanisms for dealing with their own
They
doubt?
do. Oh yeah. Yeah, they do. Like they'll say you need to pray more, you need to go in service more, like the door-to-door preaching, and they would just there's always they always have an answer for everything. But that answer doesn't necessarily make sense. So,
See, in Mormonism, they have
Yeah.
a first Sunday of every month. They have fast and testimony meeting. You're supposed to not eat for 24 hours, which is cool.
Okay.
And then there's no preaching. The mic is open. And you can go up in front of the stage, and you're supposed to, you can bear your testimony,
Oh,
which means
wow.
tell
Okay.
people that you believe that this is true and the book's true and that Joseph was the true one, and the new prophet's the true prophet, and it's priesthood's
Interesting.
restored, and all these things. You give little anecdotes through your life, you know, like they'll do like, oh, the other day I was at this, and it was like this, and it reminded me that I believe that, da, da, da. You know, they give little stories, but often
Yeah.
it'll be like,
Huh.
my faith was really tested this month.
Okay.
And then they'll be like, but then I came away and I've been strengthened. So there
That's
is this
right,
sort of like,
right.
you know,
Okay.
anyways.
Well,
Hey,
yeah.
what's,
So let's wrap it up. And
thank you.
um, yeah, I would just want to say to any Jehovah's Witnesses that are watching this or hearing this that you're not alone if you are starting to have doubts and things aren't making sense to you. You're not alone. Look up jwfacts.com. There's a lot of ex-Jehovah's Witness support groups. I highly recommend not going to... There's a lot of angry ones. There's a lot of anger because people have they've been, really done wrong. But there's a lot of groups that are focusing on healing. So for me, like I'd mentioned to you before, I've been awake for about 5 years now, almost 5 years, and Watchtower still kind of owned me during those 5 years. So I'm finally not caring at all about what people think about me. And I feel like I'm getting my freedom back finally. So I would want people to find those support groups, like the real support groups, the people that are trying to move on. Seek out those people because there is definitely life after this. Yeah.
It's cool. Your story is a story of hope and courage, you know, and patience too. It took a little
A
time,
lot
you
of
know.
patience.
So wherever you're
Yeah.
coming from, I'd say that like, your message of kindness reaching out to Jehovah's Witnesses is more appropriate than my message of kindness reaching out to Mormons. I think
Oh.
Mormons are a little bit like, hey, Mormons, I love you, but I think that you can stay in your Mormonism and be more likely like all right with it than a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses that if you're not if you know you're not believing it, it's gonna be hard for you to stay in that.
Yeah.
But there's a
That's
way.
the thing.
Mormonism is changing actually. I don't know if Jehovah's
Well,
Witnesses is changing, but Mormonism is
only for
like
the worse.
it's kind of well, sometimes it's changing for the worst a little bit, but mostly like the culture is becoming a little bit more accepting and stuff like this, you know. I found that with even with the gay thing, like the leaders at the top may dictate a certain way, but the way it actually happens with the people when the rubber hits the road,
right,
is that there's eventually compassion usually from the parents. Not usually, but
Nice.
there's nice stories anyways where there's like there's a coming out of the closet, there's a bullshit that happens for a little while, and then there's a beautiful healing long term, and the parents don't do what they were taught they thought they were supposed to do.
Nice.
They end up doing. I love those stories anyways. I don't know if they are more or less than, but they do exist within Mormonism, and I think that's kind of nice to point out and say like, hey, like, Jehovah's Witness people are nice people. You know,
they're wonderful people, and
yeah.
they genuinely, truly believe they are doing the right thing. My parents are amazing people. My dad is an incredible artist. He's a painter, a poet, a singer. He's an incredible man, and with all of these wonderful talents. But he's not speaking to me, so people would look at him and say like, "What's wrong with you? Why aren't you speaking to myself and my sister?" But that's what he's so
doing the best with what
the mind
his
control,
resources he believes
the
he
mind.
has.
He truly believes it, so I can't fault him for that.
Yeah.
And yeah, Jehovah's Witnesses are not bad people. They're truly good people, or trying to be good people, and they're listening to misguided direction. Like it's just they're human beings. The governing body are human beings. They are not, they've even admitted they're not directed by God. They used to claim they were directed by God. Now they changed that and said, no, we're not spirit directed. So it's like people are waking up now because of some of those comments. It's like, wait, what? But what about fruit at the proper time? And, you're the faithful and discreet slave. It's just like, so.
Yeah, I thought that Mormonism could become a culture like Judaism is, and less of a religion. It could become like more culture, less religious.
Well, that would be nice.
But I don't know if J Dubs can do that.
No,
really. I don't think they can.
I don't think so. I think it's just eventually going to crumble because they're
I
claiming
think so
that
too.
it's
or
the
it has
end
to
of,
be like radically changed.
They're saying that it's the end of the times right now. They're
always
saying
saying
we
that.
are in. This is the Great Tribulation. Like they're going to stop the preaching work soon, I'm sure. And then, but then what? Armageddon's still not going to come. Then what? So yeah.
All right.
Anyways,
thank you, Sarah.
We'll have
Love
to
you,
do
dear.
this again.
Thank you, Marco.
Part 2 to come.
Thank you, Josh.
Thanks so much.
Joshua. Yeah.
Weird.
That was cool. You were like right in my head.